Get your rub on with Addicted.
Hello, addicted to the Q world. Tonight we have a special guest. Like I always said, and I believe it, they're probably two of the nicest people in barbecue. And my son Wesley's adopted grandparents on the barbecue world. He met them at the OG Bandits class last March, and now every time he sees them, he gives them hugs. How are you guys doing tonight?
Great. Doing great.
So before we get
Doing
when did
great.
you guys get?
And yes,
When
we
did you
love being adopted grandparents.
I think everyone's adopted grandparents in barbecue.
Oh, thanks.
We love that.
Yes. So when did you guys get into barbecue and what got you started?
Well, actually, I started first before Rosemary and me got married. So I guess, I don't know, 30 plus years ago, something like that. And what got us into it is I think what got me into it was actually just like all of us started, got a pit. My boys gave me for Father's Day, and a little water smoker, Brinkman water smoker. And of course, no matter how bad it was, everybody said it was great. And the long and short of it is I happened on to a person that I visited with, and she kind of educated me into the barbecue world, and then I met a very kind and willing participant in the name of Larry King from Old Woodshed. Those of you that can remember back that far, great guy, great competitor, and I started competing soon after that, and then fast forward, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12 years, and Rosemary and me got married, and obviously with the vows came along barbecue. So I think I can say it that way.
It was the fine print.
Yes, it was fine print. It was in the prenup.
It was like mighty fine print. Yeah.
So how has competition barbecue changed from then to today?
I think, in all fairness, this is not above my pay grade. I think I really don't know that it's necessarily all that much as far as the process of going through maybe the money, maybe the prize money. Obviously, the prize money. I mean, when I started, there was no prize money. We did it for the fun of it. We did it for the betterment of barbecue. We did it, for what all of us. I guess I'm an old timer, and for what we did it for was for the betterment of barbecue, and then developing America's cuisine. And that's just what it comes down to. Yeah. I think, and Rosemary, I don't know, you got anything to add? Because I think that's kind of a general for me.
I agree. I kind of cut out my microphone so we wouldn't get so much feedback. So I might have missed just a smidgen of what you just said.
How great you are. I said how great you are.
Thank you very much.
But there definitely wasn't the trailers and the bigger footprint back then.
No. Back in late 80s, early 90s, there was 2 or 3 or 4 that run around and maybe a motorhome, Armadillo Bob's, Craig and Patty from Boys of Barbecue and Patty. They had trailers, but the general consensus was that we just got out there with an easy up or a 10 by 20 and put it together, clanging and banging the pipes together, and set up the tables and learned how to make extensions for the legs and and so we didn't break our backs doing all the trimming and stuff, because back then we did everything on site, and stick burners were the thing, and we just got out there and had a good time.
In fact, I might add that our very first competition, we slept in the back of our Ford Windstar van on an air mattress. And I'm telling you, that was an experience that everyone needs to, have throughout their barbecue life experiences. So
Agreed.
You're talking about the PVC pipe on the end of your tables. I still have yet to do that, and I cuss it every time I go to the contest saying I'm going to do that. And I still have yet to do it.
10-foot stick is a whole lot cheaper than going to the chiropractor. So
we could make you a deal on something.
So take us to, how did you guys get started repping, and what was that process like?
Go for it.
Well, I loved it. I absolutely, when Phil indoctrinated me into the barbecue world, I was sold. And at the time, mobility was a tiny bit of an issue for me. I had been in a car accident. And so competing was kind of it was a new deal for me completely. I had never experienced anything like this in my life. But we saw people that we admired and had a great deal of respect for as reps. And Phil and I both kind of brainstormed and said, wow, that would be a perfect opportunity for us to be involved to, like Phil said, the betterment of barbecue. And it allowed us to be ever present, even though we weren't actually competing. So it was a win-win situation. We got to meet wonderful people like the two gentlemen that we're visiting with right now, and to incorporate our love for barbecue and hopefully influence other people to join the movement, so to speak. But it was a win-win solution for us to be able to be with our fellow competitors, but have an opportunity to have not that I'm not saying that people didn't have integrity, but Phil and I pride ourselves on our integrity and our ability to make people feel welcome. And so it was a wonderful solution.
Yep.
And I still think that's why the Shenandoah contest has always had a great turnout the last 2 years, just purely because of you two.
Well, and we still have to, when we say Shenandoah, it's mandatory that you say whoop whoop for it.
Yeah.
So
it is.
Yes. No, a whoop whoop is mandatory. In fact, just a really quick side note, but we had some absolutely amazing CBJs that came to Shenandoah. And in fact, 4 individuals that run together came up for the second year so they could judge in Shenandoah. Whoop, whoop. And on Saturday night after the contest, if you can believe this, we were on Main Street in Shenandoah, Iowa, and Ron brought his saxophone, and he was playing saxophone music. Wonderful job. And then Kay had brought a pan of brownies with strawberries in them, and as people were stopping at a 4-way stop kind of in front of our hotel that we were staying in, They were serenaded by saxophone music, and then also a wonderful, delicious brownie was handed to them at the four-way stop. So, people knew that we were there, but
That is
we
a
had
great
fun.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Serenaded by music. So,
And a brownie.
and a brownie.
I need to one of these years. I just need to either come up and judge it or cook it. I need to
Yes,
make that happen.
Well,
without a doubt. Without a doubt. Mace Henson is a tremendous organizer, and he incorporated a lot of the maybe he learned a lot from the first year and incorporated some changes into the second year, and it was phenomenal. We had the best time, and Phil and I were just kissing hands, and I mean, we were
taking
kissing
days.
babies and shaking hands. I've said that the wrong way, and I needed to regroup there
Yeah.
for a minute, but we had it was so much fun. So please come. I would encourage anyone to put that on your calendar for next year.
So that's so. So how long have you guys been reps for KCBS?
I took a couple years off due to health reasons, but um, I think Rosemary, I think it's 22, 23 years, something like that.
Yeah, you were an honorary rep at the last contest that Rosemary was at in Ashland. You were there hanging out,
Yeah,
helping rep and
yeah,
without repping.
did the meat
So,
inspections and
yep.
was part of and did the scoring too. I was able to do scoring and yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, 24 years, 23 years, something
Wow.
like that. No, we haven't seen it all. Yes, there will be something new tomorrow.
But you've probably seen a lot though.
Yeah, we have. The one absolute thing that still still prides me so much is to see how folks that donate their hard-earned money to this barbecue um, thing and are so humble when they win. It's an amazing thing, and get that first one is never easy. To get a second one is even harder. So yeah, long time. Haven't seen it all.
I will say one thing, and I took OG Bandit class, so I have a little bit of Ashton and Josh Farley are probably two of the nicest people you'll ever meet in barbecue.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I couldn't have been more excited it made for KC. But the way they even won was just so gracious. Like you could tell those two people are just in it for the love of barbecue. I mean, to give a class for free, to buy a Wagyu brisket, to cook it just for people to try it at a class is insane.
Yeah. And just that one piece of meat alone, not to count everything else that they put into
Yes.
such an incredible
Yes.
program. Yeah,
That
it
was
was. When that's and if I might offer the pride that I know I take, and certainly Rosemary as well, in doing something like this is to actually promote what the Kansas City Barbecue Society is all about. It isn't about points. It isn't about $20,000 contest. It isn't about $250, $25 briskets. What it is about is America's cuisine, period. Nothing else, nothing more, nothing less. Bunch of guys, ladies and men, both getting out there and cooking, doing the best they can, hoping that they get 4 tables that says, wow, that's something. And there's a ton of folks that have contributed through the last 37, 8 years, whatever it's been. And with the only one hope, and that is to win one ribbon.
Yep.
And the ribbon more times than not comes in some other fashion besides plastic trophy or a nameplate. It comes with acceptance by your peers. Yeah.
Mine comes with teaching my son how to win
Yeah.
graciously and
Yeah.
lose graciously,
Oh, it's
and
empowering.
not to be able to work hard for something and to achieve it, and to that you set your mind to something, you can do it.
Yeah.
I personally, and you guys can disagree, whatever, but and this might be above your pay grade, but I honestly think KCBS needs to go back to the roots of the and do more backyard, what it was built on, the small town Shenandoah, Iowa whoop 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 contest.
Thank you.
And like I had a contest in my hometown. I would love to do a KCBS backyard. Towns like Cameron, Warsaw, Ashland. That's what I mean.
Uh,
Yes, you can still keep
don't
the
forget
big American
Centralia.
Royals
Don't forget Centralia.
and Centralia. Yes, that one's coming up too. And the backyard is honestly getting a decent start and a following, and I think it's finally taking note in KCBS finally.
Um,
And I totally agree with that. And Phil and I are proponents of for those of us that are not as able-bodied as we used to be,
Mm-hmm.
and when we are limited financially to what we can do.
Yep.
I truly think that we need to have, hopefully, KCBS board will listen, that the backyard rules, in my estimation, should be modified some, because Phil and I would love to cook more often, but we are limited. Four categories just takes its toll, and we don't have our Ford Windstar van any longer, so
Yep.
um, we're we're limited to the equipment that we have.
Yep.
And so if we could have, and Phil and I've had long discussions about this, but have like a senior or um, a modified um, backyard. Yes, it's been years since we've won our grand champion, and so we are not um, we are not ever present in contests competing, but we would sure like to be able to be involved, to be in the backyard, to
Yep.
do things like that. And I wish that there was a way that we could make that happen. That after, if it's been so long since you've won a grand,
Like 5
that
or
you
10 years or something
right
since you won a
that you
GC.
that you could go back and do backyard again, because Phil and I would love that, and just to have the ability to be out with you guys and to cook and enjoy that camaraderie. And just one quick comment, then I'll be quiet. But Phil and I used to say that we don't compete against the Sofa Kings or the meets my mistress. We don't compete against each other. We compete against the six judges that are on
Yep.
the table.
Yep.
So we all have a fair chance. We just need to make it more accessible to those that maybe can't do the four beats or don't have the financial backing to do the four beats.
yep. That's right.
Well, anybody that's cooked a 4 meat contest, or even heck, I sometimes cook them by myself with two. I'm lucky to get everything. There's a lot of steps. There's a lot of things to maintain, and it's just. Plus, I've always said, what happens if somebody wants to take 5 years off of barbecue? They
Right.
can't come back and work their way back up. They have to completely start back in the Masters, and
And do it again. I mean,
yep.
it's challenging. That makes it extremely challenging. So I hope those of you who have subscribed to this wonderful channel, please, let's try to get an initiative going that we can open up the backyard and modify the rules differently than they used to be. So
One thing I brought up, but it kind of fell on deaf ears so far, is a 350 pin instead of a 700 pin.
I, I think that's a really cool idea. Why not? You know,
It's actually harder to get a 350 than it is a 700 because you only have two categories, so it's a
without a
less game of
doubt.
averages.
Without a doubt. I think it's a splendid idea.
I just want to cook.
Right.
Yes. No, that's the thing is, I don't want to say that KCBS has gotten too big, because I do enjoy KCBS and I do enjoy a lot of things with KCBS, but I feel like sometimes I don't have the right answer. I don't know what the right answer is, but I feel like they need to get back to some of the roots and the small town of what it was built on.
Yeah. I understand that. I understand that the 600 plus teams of the American Royal and the Invitational with Jack, and those are all incredibly important to KCBS, and they're incredibly important to the barbecue world. But the as I mentioned, aforementioned, the Shindig, the Centralia, the
Cameron.
Cameron. Let's go up in the Northeast or the Northwest, either one, or South. We would love to be all part of a $20,000 contest, but without feeding the roots by starting with backyard, revising the kind of guidelines and put back the importance in these smaller contests. It doesn't matter to me who's there cooking. I'm going to give the best I can to 24 people, and we all have that one common denominator. It doesn't matter where we come from or what we've got spent, but it's we got to get it there first. And 25 team contest is still pretty important. I think. And again, to move from backyard up, you bet. But when we get to that age or stage in our lives where finances are a little more stressed, hey, why not? You're raising a family. You guys are raising families. There are a lot of people raising families. Would love to be able to go out there and cook.
Well, and plus, not only, I think refocusing on the smaller contests, the economic impact that it brings into the community is huge.
Oh.
And I try to, whenever Phil and I are doing a smaller contest at the cooks meeting, or when we're going around welcoming the teams, we offer that it's really important for the teams to say when they go to Casey's to get a pizza, or they have to go to the hardware store to get some sort of device for their trailer, to tell the town that they're there for the barbecue. So it not only sells, it makes an impact. So when Casey's is having a corporate meeting and they're saying, wow, that contest was that, all of our sales increased. And so it's a far reaching, it has a far reaching impact, not only for us as competitors, but for whatever town that is willing to host an event.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So true.
That is very, and that's the worst thing now it seems like there's contests that are so few and far between that it's almost everyone flocks to that one contest. And that's like Warsaw, Missouri. I was really sad that one had to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were so close to putting our hat in the ring for that one. And then Phil and I had finally gotten the courage to say, okay, we're going to do it. Oh, crud. It's canceled. And so it's someone else.
I think the word got out that AM and PM smokers.
Yeah, exactly. We just can't handle AM and PM smokers.
Hey, don't giggle, Brian. Don't giggle. It could happen.
Hey. Everybody's got a chance on any given day.
Right, exactly.
There's 4 categories, and you got a chance.
I cooked. It was the contest at Hunsaker Smokers. It wasn't a KCBS one, which that's another question I'm going to have later. It was a meat provided, cook 1 slab of ribs, turn in 4 bones. That's all you get. Do your best shot with it.
Yep.
And I took 1 bite and said, well, that sucks. On to the next one. And I got 3rd. So I really can't complain.
Worst.
But, well, that's my next question.
Yeah.
Do you think a meat provided will ever come into KCBS? A meat provided contest?
Yeah, none of you remember. Maybe some of you do that are listening, but many, many, many years ago, Farmland Industries sponsored the Gladstone, Missouri contest. Cost you $100 to get in it. You got all 4 meats provided. Those days are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Brisket cost 69 cents a pound back then.
Right,
Well,
right.
yeah,
Exactly.
but that's very true. But we didn't make $100,000 a year either.
No.
Yeah.
So you put the percentages there, and I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between then and now. We were raising kids or paying support, and the stories. So, but you're 100% right. For their cost, it was dirt cheap. Yeah. Go ahead.
For me, and I know that everybody's different on that, but I feel like half the time, whenever it's not meat provided, it's whoever's got the deeper pockets.
Well,
Phil has a funny story that he's just bursting to tell you.
Don't
So,
Leavenworth?
yeah,
That's
Leavenworth.
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 We had
Which was a great contest.
Dear friend of ours, Keith Sisk, sold us a couple of Gateway drums, and we loaded them up in the
we had a camper then.
Yeah, we had a camper then, and up to over to Leavenworth to cook, and my boy was with me, youngest boy, and I was beaming with pride, and as yourself, anytime you can have your kids with you, that's great. And so, I threw out the pork, and he started trimming it, and I grabbed my prime brisket that I had aged just perfectly, threw it up on the table, and he looked at it and he said, "What are you going to do with that piece of junk?" And I said, "What is it?" "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, that's an old choice brisket." I said, Yeah, I thought it was prime. Uh-oh. He said, "What are we going to do? We can't compete against these Wagyus." Well, the story is still a record, on record. I'll say not a record, but on record as second place brisket. And Stretch got tired of carrying to me, so I had to go to him to get my awards because we I think we were 4th overall for the contest. You can cook less than. The opportunities are not there that often, but all you got to do is wow 6 judges. You don't have to wow 4.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
and that's been recently.
Yeah,
that was ancient history. That's been recently.
Yeah, that was I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago maybe.
Well, that's like me and you had this conversation in Ashland at meat inspections.
Yes.
I cooked 3 ribs.
Yeah.
3 racks of ribs and did okay. I cooked 4 and did worse, and I went to 2 and did better with 2 racks of ribs to cook them than I did with 3 and 4 racks of ribs.
You were more careful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could zero in on those slabs.
Yeah. Absolutely. You don't have to cook a volume to do good. You just have to do good at what you do. Know your pit.
Yep, that's like I've heard of. It was Drew Davis with Razor Racks. Kids cooks 8, maybe 9 thighs.
Yeah. On one can in Odessa. In Odessa a couple of years ago, and won it on one can. Yeah. Way to go! I appreciate it, man. That's a great call too.
I always joke. I say you screwed it up for men everywhere, having to say they need 4 drums in the contest.
Well,
my wife said, "Well, if he can do it on one, why do you need another one?"
Somebody needs to clean drums a whole lot more than I do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So has KCBS ever thought about changing any of the 4 meats?
As a past board member, with all due respect to all of the past and future board members, I will say that's above my pay grade, because that really is that's at a level that the board actually really needs to discuss. I mean, I have no problem with some oddities as far as that goes as a 5th category, but that'd be something that the board probably would maybe be best to answer.
But when you think about one of Phil's questions in his PhD when he wrote his dissertation, one of the questions was, how do you see, what is the word I'm trying to find, Phil?
Plant-based protein.
Plant-based protein. And look at soy now on the website. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
astonishing where we could take this to.
we have
You know,
we have kosher cues. We have backyard. We have masters. We have hey, why not throw out some plant-based protein? I'm not saying that it's something that's good for right now, but down the road to be considered, I don't think it's a bad idea at all, because if nothing more, there's that many more that would be interested in KCBS if they could take a part.
and turkey and all of that,
Yeah.
all of the
Oh, turkey.
ancillary things that have risen to the
I don't
surface.
think the Turkey Federation appreciate that, but
No.
yeah, I agree with that. I think that plant-based could be utilized at some point. If nothing else, an ancillary. Try it as an ancillary. If it goes over as a big hit, hey, why not?
Or even make like one contest be the traditional 4 meats and then one be a different one, kind of like kosher, like you said. Or like Brian loves to do, smoked tofu.
Yeah.
Brian,
Tofu,
he just looks like a tofu guy.
he
His
does.
wife's vegetarian.
That's my wife. That's my wife. I learned how to do all vegetarian for her, so I'm like the whole April 1st Fool's joke. Oh, fifth category tofu. I'm like, done. I'm good.
And I have to admit, we were driving to Omaha, and I read that, and I said some things I shouldn't have said, and we were talking to our very good friend Carl McBee on the phone, and he goes, Rosemary, what day is today? And it was like, oh my gosh, I fell for it big time. But yeah, so that was audience of one right here. But yeah.
To me, and this is gonna sound crazy, but sometimes I think cooking a duck or cooking something else could be a lot more challenging than the 4 regular meats, because everyone sits there and practices on that. How many times have somebody cooked a duck or cooked a rabbit or cooked anything that's different?
We used to. Cabela's had a circuit for a while, and this gentleman has since passed away, but he wanted to cook with us, and they had a wild meat category, and you didn't know until the day of, or the day before, what it was going to be. And we ended up taking wild boar ribs.
Oh, wow.
And they were the size of your pinky finger. That's how small the bone was. Well, our friend Jack was in charge of doing the wild boar ribs, and we got a call.
We had 2 slabs.
Yeah,
He did one and I did one.
Okay, but we got a call in it, and I just remembered that he levitated off of the grandstands to go down and get the trophy. I have never seen a man so happy in my entire life. And I think he hugged every single person that was in the audience that day and showed him the trophy. It was stellar. It was a moment I'll never forget. But there's room for all sorts of possibilities.
Those can still be done as far as ancillary categories. I mean, we're not bound to that. So if an organizer wants to get a sponsor for something, hey, so be it. That can be handled as an ancillary category, and they make the rules on that. So,
So are you guys coming to the Invitational in Mayetta this year?
I don't know that we're going to be in town.
Wow.
Yeah.
We were there a couple years ago. I think we went was it 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful, and it's a great venue, and it was incredible to see people that traveled in to it. and we got to catch up with quite a few people, which was so much fun. We just our schedule is such that it's kind of hard to see, from any given time if we're available. But yeah.
I judged it that year. That was the one and only time I've judged the Invitational, and it was in Mayetta. It was the year of COVID. We had masks and we had to take temperatures and wear gloves and all that, but it was a really good time.
Yes.
I was glad. I was really happy when it wasn't in Alabama this year, and I could actually be a little bit closer for me to cook it.
Yeah.
I know that made a lot of other teams mad.
Yeah, well, they got to turn in just like you do.
Well, historically, it was always here, and then things kind of changed, and they've moved it around. So it's kind of hard to predict what the future looks like. So
I hope they keep it. I really wish the Invitational would go back to Kemper Arena. I know they will never have it there because it's not full hookups and it's not. But the history of KCBS in that stockyards is where I really wish they would take it back to. But
Yeah.
I know Stockyard Barbecue's trying to put a competition together down there. And if they do, they want springtime. Have you guys thought, or has the board thought about putting the Royal backyard with the Royal Masters in the fall?
Above my pay grade.
I think that's up to the Royal, not the KCBS.
Well, and Carl
Carl
McBee had a contest down at the West Bottoms and at Hy-Vee Arena, and we had a good time. The funniest thing is that people kept trying to come in and park into where the competitors were at. And at the same time, they had a psychic fair going on. And so people would pull up and say, but this is where I need to park. And so finally, one of the four of us on this phone call said, if you're going to a psychic fair, shouldn't you know where you're supposed to park at?
I mean, it's a legitimate.
That was my first thought. When they said
exactly.
You know when you're in the wrong spot.
With that, who would have thunk it? I mean, I don't know.
That's my first thought too.
I know.
Know where you're at.
Shouldn't you already know where to park? Yeah, it was. We had a blast. And it was a lot of fun. It's just, dealing with some of the municipalities is challenging.
It would be nice to go back there, but again, just like the sponsored contest, meat sponsored contest, those days are probably gone. We find a cattle and a hog producer that's willing to give it up. Well, hey, I'm sure KCBS would entertain that.
I enjoy the backyard Royal because of its location, but I really wish Brian can attest to this. I really wish they would merge the backyard Royal with the Masters Royal and have one heck of a party at the Speedway.
Yeah.
Well, logistics may not be the best judging on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is separating the two out would really be tough. But
it's a crapshoot there anyway, though.
Oh, it is. It is. It is.
And speaking to that point, like what Carl McBee did with the Cameron Elks, to have two consecutive backyards along with the four Masters. When he approached us with that idea, Phil and I kind of thought, oh my goodness, how is that going to work? With minimal hiccups, we got it done. It was, and we've heard complimentary things.
Yes,
about it.
Great things about that contest.
And there were logistically, from the reps' perspective, there were a few things that we needed assistance with, because keying that many categories and having the awards. What time did we have the awards hunting for? 4 o'clock, which wasn't out of the realm of possibilities, considering
Well,
we had the awards for, both backyards and the Masters at the same time. So several
sure.
people have told us that may be an innovative way going forward to maximize the location and the judges and the availability of the competitors to be as one. So Carl
And
had Carl had a good idea with that.
Yeah.
yeah,
And a lot of teams liked it because it was a double, but it was still one day of massive cooking, so that they weren't worn out like you are on a regular double.
Right.
right.
It was
You're
a
not
good.
sleeping on an air mattress 2 nights in a row.
Yeah. Um, I want to throw this out. Rosemary had an incredible individual, Patty Comp, helping her score. I had an incredible right hand with Forrest Bruce, and Carl let Rosemary and I run with our creative juices as well as we respected his creative juices. And we made something happen together as a team, which that's what it takes. No getting around it. It is a unified team. The Elks Lodge and Cameron, how gracious of hosts they were. On and on and on. There's so many people that could be thanked, but just a blanket thank you to everybody out there, because we, through the years, the 30 whatever years it's been for me, I've been in on a lot of firsts with a lot of things. And this had to be one of the most spectacular, I think. Could have been disastrous instantaneously, but it was done right, done fair, no confusion, no mix-ups. It was a done deal, and kudos to the crew that worked with Rosemary and I and Carl and the teams. Oh my God, can't forget them.
And I also have to give a huge shout out to Dave McAllister with 913.
Yep.
I sat down with him from the KCBS score perspective. So I approached the setup of the scoring program to utilize it in the most functional way possible. And he was incredible with counseling me on how I needed to set up the software. So kudos to him, because he was right there, and he even offered, if Patty Cump hadn't been able to help, he even offered his services to come up and help Key. And what a gracious thing that was for him to do. But he was a great resource. So
I bet. Is he still on the board? I know he was for a little bit.
No,
he volunteered to. He's offered to stick around in the computer side of it. An incredible human to have with us.
Yep.
And he knows the score program backwards and forwards, and so he was able to counsel me on a couple of potential issues, and so with his help, I was able to work those through before the contest, so we could get it done in a timely manner.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think of, do you think, because I've seen some places like CBA where they now use phones, do you think that will ever
Have what?
Like they use their cell phones to judge, to score? Do you think that will ever happen?
Even when I was on the board, which seems like so long ago, the automating our scoring system was discussed in detail. For all the good ideas, there's probably 3 or 4 really bad ideas, especially when you figure that some of our certainly some of our judges somewhere are not well versed on phones. Wow, what's going to happen then? It's tough enough to have a glitch in a computer, but have to explain how to get to something is probably not going to have time to do that. So, yeah. but it's a great idea. We thought about a punch card, and then there was the hanging Chad thing, and then what are we going to do? So it is what it is. We have gone. Oh, if you all knew, I'm talking out there in podcast world. If you all knew where we have come from in history of our scoring system, by far this is the best, most foolproof way that there is.
And who knows, some of the programming aspects, people that are geared to programming, if they could get a hold of the software itself, I'm sure somebody could come up with a wonderful solution. It's just having the powers that be encourage someone to look in that regard. I do have to put a plug out for Phil, though. When he was on the board, if you could imagine, people would read the CD. So they would actually read, and it was absolutely, you just wanted to run, because when somebody would start reading that stuff, it was like, I'm out. But because he heard stories about Maine being different than California, or Florida being different than Washington State, he, with the help of another board member, came up with a standardization of having it be on a CD. So Phil was instrumental in getting that accomplished, because we wanted to have it be standardized. He wanted to have it be standardized along with the board. But can you imagine?
No.
Well,
it makes my ears hurt.
Yeah, I know.
John Ross and me went to a gentleman's house and recorded in his basement studio the complete recording. Don, the guy that did it, was an incredible. I guess I don't know if he's still around or not, but
the sportsman's friend
did an incredible job of recording it, and that's when our MP3, the beginning of the MP3 program was built.
Harold Inslee.
No.
Okay, sorry, I made that up.
Yeah, it was the voice for Harold Inslee, the sportsman's friend. Yes. So yeah. Don was a gentleman.
I appreciate that. I guess I need to thank you for that then, because I can't imagine them reading that every time.
Yeah, that's the cooks and the judges meeting.
Oh, that's just not. So here's another question. I think this is the last one I have, unless Brian does. You hear talk on Facebook, on the net, of the random chip draw versus the judge seating the program.
Versus the what?
The judge seating program versus the random chip draw.
No.
Has KCBS ever decided one way or the other? I still keep hearing it talked about, trying to do this back and forth, and go ahead.
I mean, the logistics of having it be the seating program itself, there were a lot of time-consuming elements to it that were very problematic. And when you had people lined up out the door waiting to find where they were going to be seated at, or if you attempted to do it beforehand, you would run into issues.
Well, like the last 6 guys that come in, may be CBJs, may not be CBJs, but if you are 6 judges short because everybody waits till the last week to kind of join in on the contest, well, then all of a sudden the organizer has to find people. They don't have a clue what's going on, so you eventually then end up either rearranging or setting a table of 6 that just goes right. So, which it never happened to us. I don't know whether it ever happened, but that is a possibility.
Okay.
And it just the chip draw is as random as it gets. If you go by averages, somebody's going to complain because they didn't win, and
since you guys compete, I mean, since you guys are on the front lines, how do you feel it is?
But I take some of my judging with me. But I would much rather just do the random because, for instance, I have a 32 average, right, in fork or whatever. That was a crappy contest. I judged everything low. Therefore, my average goes down and affects my next contest to where I'm getting C at. But it was just an outlier of a bad contest.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's like you said earlier in the interview. You're going against six judges, nobody else.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't know who they are. I mean, I'm out in a pop-up tent. I don't know who these six are. You know, it's not if they're KCBS certified or not. It's their palette that I'm going against.
100%. That's 100% correct. So
that's a brilliant point.
And if I cook, I mean, I'm still going against everything else on that table, against everything else. It shouldn't. It is what it is. I mean, it's luck of the draw.
It is.
Speaking to that point, and I know you guys are a little bit different situation, but it is such a valuable learning tool. And I would encourage any of your subscribers to be open-minded to this. But Phil and I learned so much. We've had 3 or 4 masters judges cook with us for their masters, and we empowered them. One gal in particular, she even came shopping with Phil, and so she could see what the meat looked like, what to buy, what to the marbling of the fat. And
how much it costs.
And it was, we did not have them just sit and twiddle their thumbs. They were actively involved, and it was such a powerful experience, not only for them, but for us. And this one individual that cooked with us, we actually got a ribbon, the contest that she cooked at, and we made a big ceremony when we got back to the camper, and we gave her the ribbon, and she was so moved by that. So I would encourage any of you guys out there that if they have a judge come to you and say, may I cook with you, involve them in every aspect that you can. It's a valuable resource.
I cooked with my team about 7 contests in. They always, I would suggest this: do it at the beginning because it does affect your scoring and how you judge after that.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
I mean, it really changed my, not necessarily, just changed how I looked at stuff. Because it's real easy to look at a box and be overly critical because you don't know why they did a certain thing the way they did. But after you cook, you're like, okay, they do that and it makes more sense. Like, chicken's not identical in size. Well, you try and trim 6 chicken thighs and see if you can get them identical in size.
They don't even fly.
No.
Do away with it.
That one kills me. Or a judge I had on the Facebook page one time that said if you don't turn burnt ends in, it means you don't know how to cook brisket and you should be marked down for it because you didn't put them in the box.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, you can. There again, we haven't seen it all.
No, but some of that. I love the comment cards from the Osceola contest. I know all about those.
Yeah.
You have some good ones.
Oh yeah, somebody uses chocolate and potatoes in their pork recipe.
Okay, I have to mention this.
Oh no.
Here we go. Okay,
No.
Here we go.
No.
Yes, I'm going to. So we cooked a contest, and it was hotter than hot out in, remind me where it was, honey.
No.
Okay.
It didn't matter.
Anyway.
No.
So we cooked a contest, and it was over in Kansas City, Kansas.
No.
And it was hot. And they called the awards, and we got our team detail scores. And if you can believe, Grandma, we got a comment card on our brisket that said, and I quote, "Next time, why don't you try turning in your best stuff?"
I had said before we ever turned it in that we need to throw it in the trash, but I didn't write the comment card.
And I just absolutely went 97 shades to angry in like a
Yes.
fell swoop. And one of our friends was there with us, and she's about 110 pounds, soaking wet, and she grabbed me in a bear hug, and she said, "Rosemary, it's time for us to go now." And she pulled me out of the area. She goes, "You really need to just stop. You need to come on." And but I use that as an example when we're in the judging area and people, when we get to the comment cards, I said, please have it be constructive. As an example,
No.
we got next time, try turning in your best stuff. So I use that as an example for the judges to be more specific on how you could improve.
Well, and I always say this, and maybe it's just me as a judge versus me as a cook. It's not my job as a judge to try to guess what the hell to put in there. It's not my job. I don't care if it's chocolate or sweet potatoes. It could be. I don't know. It's not my job to say
turns it in. Yeah.
It's
But
my job to say, hey, this is what needed. This is what it was. It was either unknown, salty, whatever. It
Right.
wasn't a. I've heard of comment cards was the chunk piece was chewy on a burnt in comment card. You know, I mean, it's. But I guess it was. But then sometimes judges. But then at the same time, judges or cooks teams get mad because when you put unknown flavor. Well, if you try to guess the unknown flavor, they get mad about that too.
right. But something constructive.
I love to either give a comment card on a 9 saying how good it was. My
Right.
best ones now that I cook, and I hate this, judges a lot of times won't give out a comment card on an 8. Give me a comment card on an 8 to what it could have been to be a 9.
Right.
That's what irritates me. Like they think, oh, you got an 8, that's good enough. I don't get a comment card. Well, what did I need to do to add to get it to that 9? What?
Right.
I've yet to receive a comment card, and it leaves me scratching my head so many times.
Exactly. We understand that.
It's like, well, what could I have done? I don't know what it was. Salty. It was over seasoned, under seasoned, no flavor. I don't know. I don't know where to turn.
Right. That's what happened to Phil's hair. He's still scratching. But
Mine's my kids. That's why I don't have much hair left. Well, Brian, do you have anything else before we let them enjoy the rest of their night?
With you guys traveling everywhere for all these comps, do you have a preferred barbecue joint in the United States?
Joint to eat at?
Yep.
I'm gonna throw it wasn't at a contest. We were coming back from Bristol and we stopped in Memphis, and one of the nicest gentlemen with such a welcoming heart and an open door on a stormy day in Memphis, Tennessee. Pig on Veal. Great place. One of the most fantastic smoked bologna sandwiches. Unbelievably good bologna. and a sandwich in the hospitality, a wonderful place. No, I don't have a favorite anymore. My favorite clothes, and I will be eternally grateful to Phil Hopkins for having a 20-year restaurant, which is something to celebrate. And certainly, the Smoking Gun's name will go down in history as one of the most widely used rubs, I think, commercially available, and all. But I don't necessarily have. Kansas City's full of great barbecue. So is most every town, but we set the standard, certainly. Thanks, Mr. Perry, Mr. Henry Perry, and we appreciate your efforts many years ago. Yeah, for sure.
Yep, Smoking Guns Hot's still one of the most popular reviews.
You can't even imagine. It's remarkable. It's amazing. It's Phil and Linda did a great job, and Kevin and Rachel and the whole family. And I was fortunate enough to be connected to them by employee and at a point in time. And just a great family run operation, and we are grateful that we had 20 years of their service.
Yeah.
And before, I just want to put a little plug in,
Yes.
but my favorite thing in the entire world is being a barbecue grandma. So I'm just putting the shout out that I love hugs. I love being involved with the kiddos, and seeing the parents and the kids compete brings me more joy than I could possibly imagine. So shout out, and we love you guys. And this has been such an honor to be on your program.
Well,
tonight.
thank you.
Thank you. And big
And my
hugs to the
son loves
kids.
hugs, so
He does.
he does.
We'll
love
remember
hugs.
that. We'll remember that.
And quick question: past and present
Yes,
favorite,
exactly.
favorite NASCAR driver.
Right. Oh,
Well, how deep do you want me to explain this? I don't know how much time you got, but I'm going to tell you. Go ahead, Rosemary. You can answer your 1 or 2 words, and then I'll fill in the blanks.
my favorite no longer drives, but I absolutely adore Carl Edwards. He
Missouri.
was my guy.
Yep. Columbia, Missouri.
Missouri boy. Yeah, Columbia, Missouri. On top of that,
Yep.
My neck of the woods.
my my all-time favorite of favorites, and it didn't matter. They can talk about the old M&M's guy or whatever, but driving the wheels off of anything, Tony Stewart's ranks right up there. But I got to tell you something. AJ showed them all how to do it. Set a bar too high for anybody else to ever compare to.
Wait, yeah.
And I am fortunate enough. Thanks, David Heinz. I think I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I was gifted a brick from the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway from turn 3 that was placed there between 60 days prior to the first race in 1909. They finished the paving of that track, and I've got one of those bricks. So thank you, David. I appreciate it. Yeah, I will. I thank you and thank you. So
The barbecue family once again shines through.
That came from just a random conversation about what Indianapolis means, and the gentleman brought it to Carney, and Randy Robinette, our butts are smoking. He knew there was something coming, and it was kept secret. And when I found out about it, it was next to winning our only grand championship. Not that we haven't turned in grand championship meet before, but our only one award. This ranks up there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So AJ, he ran across it a lot of times. 4 in note. First 4-time winner. So yeah.
You guys are awesome. We appreciate
Yes,
what
thank
you
you
do.
for coming on so much.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
night.
Oliver, if you want us to do this again, we'll be more than
I
happy
will
to
do that. Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.